high on the eastern slope of the Sierra Nevada, at an elevation of more than 8,000 feet, the wind blows across a scatter of weathered wooden buildings. Their walls lean into the gusts, their windows glazed with dust, their doorframes bleached the color of bone. This is Bodie, California, once a booming gold town of nearly 10,000 people, now silent. Since 1962, it has been preserved by the state of California in a condition its custodians describe by a single, curious phrase: arrested decay. The story begins in 1859, the year gold was discovered here by a prospector named Waterman S. Bodie. Bodie, sometimes spelled Bodie, died that same winter in a snowstorm before he could see his strike develop. The camp that grew around his claim took a variant of his name, and by an accident of a sign painter or a clerical error, Bodie became Bodie. From the beginning, then, the town carried the name of a man who never lived to see it. For nearly 2 decades after Bodie's death, the camp remained small and largely unremarkable. It was one of many hopeful settlements scattered across the mining districts of the American West. Then, in 1876, the Standard Company uncovered a profitable deposit of gold-bearing ore. 2 years later, in 1877, the Bodie mine struck an even richer vein, and the rush was on. By 1879, Bodie's population had swelled to somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 people. The exact figure is disputed, as census records for the boomtowns of the era were notoriously unreliable. What is not disputed is the density of the town at its peak. Historians estimate that Bodie contained around 2,000 buildings, including some 65 saloons lining a main street nearly a mile long. The town produced gold and silver bullion valued, by contemporary estimates, at roughly $34 million over its lifetime. That figure, in the currency of the late 19th century, represented a staggering fortune. 9 stamp mills pounded ore day and night, their noise carrying across the sagebrush basin. The Bodie Railway and Lumber Company built a narrow-gauge line to haul timber from the shores of Mono Lake, feeding the mines and the stoves of a town that had almost no trees of its own. Bodie earned a reputation, deserved or exaggerated, as one of the most lawless places in the American West. Newspapers of the day printed a story of a little girl whose family was preparing to move to the town. She was said to have written in her diary, "Goodbye God, I am going to Bodie." Whether the child ever existed is uncertain, and later accounts suggest the line may have been misread punctuation, meant to say "Goodbye God, I am going to Bodie." Either way, the phrase stuck. The town's violence was real enough. A killing was reported almost every week during the peak years, and the local paper, the Bodie Standard, tracked shootings, stabbings, and stage robberies with grim regularity. Opium dens operated in a small Chinatown along the town's northern edge. Gunfights spilled from saloons into the dust of Main Street, and the cemetery on the hill filled quickly with grave marked by wooden boards. Yet Bodie was also a working town, and it built the infrastructure of a proper city. It had a Wells Fargo bank, 4 volunteer fire companies, a miners' union hall, several churches, a schoolhouse, and a jail. In 1881, the Standard Company installed a hydroelectric system that transmitted electricity from a small plant on Green Creek, some 13 miles away. It was one of the first successful long-distance transmissions of alternating current in the United States. The boom, as booms do, ended. By 1880, the richest ore was already thinning, and by the mid-1880s many miners had drifted north to new strikes in Butte, Montana, or east to Tombstone, Arizona. Bodie's population fell from thousands to hundreds within a decade. Fires, common in wooden mining camps, took their toll. A blaze in 1892 destroyed a section of the business district, and a second fire in 1932 destroyed most of what remained of the town's downtown core. The 1932 fire was reportedly started by a small boy, sometimes remembered as 2.5-year-old Bodie Bill, playing with matches. In a single afternoon, the flames consumed the businesses along Main Street. What survived was largely on the outskirts: the homes, the schoolhouse, the church, the mill, and the outbuildings of a residential town. It is these buildings, roughly 110 of them, that visitors see today. For a time, a small group of caretakers stayed on. Mining continued in reduced form into the 1940s, until the War Production Board issued Order L-208 in 1942. halting most non-essential gold mining for the duration of the Second World War. The final residents drifted away in the years that followed. By the 1950s, Bodie stood almost entirely empty, its cabins full of the belongings of families who had simply walked out and never returned. In 1962, the state of California acquired the town site and established Bodie State Historic Park. That same year, Bodie was designated a National Historic Landmark by the federal government. The question then facing the park's stewards was philosophical as much as practical. Should they restore Bodie to its Victorian glory, rebuild the fallen walls, replace the missing shingles, and paint the storefronts as they had been in 1879? They chose, instead, to leave it alone. The doctrine they adopted became known as arrested decay. Under this approach, the park does not restore buildings to a previous condition. It simply prevents further deterioration, shoring up sagging roofs, replacing rotted foundation timbers when absolutely necessary, and keeping the structures standing exactly as they were on the day the state took possession. The result is a place unlike any other preserved ghost town in the American West. Dishes sit on tables where breakfast was left. Coffins lean against the wall of the undertaker's shop. Bottles line the shelves of the general store, their labels faded but still legible. A pool table stands in the saloon, the felt torn and the balls scattered, as if the game ended only moments before the players walked out. Walking through Bodie today, visitors encounter these interiors through dusty windows, because most buildings are locked and cannot be entered. The Miners' Union Hall, however, serves as the park museum. Inside are wagons, mining equipment, household goods and photographs of the town in its prime, showing the same streets crowded with horses, carts and men in dark hats. The contrast between the photographs and the empty street outside is the essence of the visit. The climate at Bodie is severe. Winter temperatures can fall well below zero, and snow can bury the buildings to their eaves. Summer brings intense sun, high winds, and dust that scours the paint from the wood. Preserving these fragile structures against such weather is a constant challenge, and the park's small staff works year-round to keep the buildings standing without altering their character. There is also famously a curse, or the legend of one. Park rangers say that visitors who take objects from Bodie, a nail, a bottle, a shard of glass, often suffer misfortune afterward. The park receives regular packages containing returned items and letters of apology, describing accidents, illnesses, or bad luck the writers attribute to their theft. Whether the curse is real, or a story invented by rangers to discourage souvenir hunting, is disputed. The population of Bodie today is officially zero. A handful of park employees and their families live on site during the working season, but no one is a permanent resident. The nearest town of any size is Bridgeport, more than 30 miles away by a road that in winter is often closed by snow. The isolation is part of what has preserved Bodie, and it is part of what makes the visit feel like a step outside of time. Bodie is neither a reconstruction nor a ruin. It is not a museum in the ordinary sense, with objects arranged behind glass and captions explaining what they mean. It is, instead, an entire town caught in the act of disappearing, held by human effort at the precise moment of its slow surrender to time. The philosophy of arrested decay treats decay itself as a value worth preserving. The wind, of course, does not care. It moves through the broken window of the schoolhouse, past the desks still lined in rows, out through the open door and down Main Street, where the wooden facades lean a little further each year despite the best efforts of the people trying to hold them upright. Waterman Bodie never saw the town that took his name, and in a sense, the town he never saw is the one that will finally, eventually, blow away.